Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the monthly meeting we have on the virtual job fair tool. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Want to first begin with some updates we have made to the system. So starting here under February 18, we corrected the iframe resizing issue for single employer event request dashboard. So we'll just go ahead and show you where that is exactly. So of course, to access the virtual job fair management system, if you do have access, that is, when you're logged into workNet, under my dashboard, you'll select the VJF virtual job fair icon. And that is unexpected. Hang on, bear with me one moment, please. We have a programmer who's currently working on some updates to the system. So I'm thinking that's what happened here, but let me try something really quick. Bear with me, folks. Hang on. Sorry. Okay, so I think we're going to send a note to the programmer to look into that. I'm sure there's some things in the test environment that's being worked on that's causing this, but we should have that back up and running shortly. So we'll go ahead and I think we'll circle back to the dashboard and some of these updates, unless there's some other updates to show. So yeah, we'll circle back to the updates, but for now, in the meantime, we can just provide an overview of what is included in the VJF partner guide. Of course, this is the partner guide on workNet that has all things virtual job fair. So to access this, you can reach it a few different ways. So when you go to Illinois workNet on the homepage, you can select the partners icon up here. And then on the partner landing page site, this under the global partner tools, you'll see the VJF virtual job fair guide. So we'll select that and we'll get to the page this way. And I believe if we also enter the short URL, illinoisworknet.com/VJF guide, yep, we'll get access to the partner guide page here. So just kind of walking through it, we have at the top some introductory text, just explaining the purpose of the virtual job fair guide. And we do have different access levels for virtual job fair. Of course, Daniel and myself, we can see all booths, all events for all LWIAs throughout the state. To acquire access to that, if you don't already have it, you can just send an email to info@illinoisworknet.com, or if you have Daniel and myself's, if you have our email, you can just shoot us an email and we'll make sure you get access to it. And so, okay, yeah, below here we have just some information about getting started on planning your event and logging into the virtual job fair dashboard. And we also have it over here, getting started on your virtual job fair event. And so if we you can just take a look at what this page looks like. We have a few different icons here. We have a quick start guide that provides just kind of an overview of what to expect, no matter the size and scope of your event. And then we have further information about single and multi-employer events, or if you are working with a state senator or representative for your region, we have had virtual job fairs in the past and working with those legislative representatives as well. And so just a quick look at the quick start guide. We have accompanying videos and texts and links for every step of the way. We have the VJF introduction, just again introducing you to the virtual job fair and what an event may look like. But the major steps are inviting employers to participate in your event. And then further, and what that includes is making sure that they set up an employer booth page. And that is something that do have a note to encourage, if you're not already, for employers who are looking to fill open positions they have in their area to set up a booth on Illinois WorkNet. And it's very easy to do from the quick aside, from the WorkNet homepage under this virtual job fair icon here. They click set up virtual job fair. There will be instructions and guidance, and not just setting up a booth, but requesting an event and managing their booth page and listing as well. And again, what to expect in putting on an event. And the information they have to fill out is very straightforward. Anything with a red asterisk that is required, but as you can see at a quick glance, it's pretty straightforward information. The organization's name, website, number of positions they have open, the date range they want to show their employer booth, a logo, description. We have FEIN, but that's optional. That's an optional field. And then we also have fields for address and some new updates here that we'll get to in a second. I think the previous issue has been resolved. But they can also select the industries that they're hiring in. They can select more than one as well. And then employer contact information, social media if they have it, and then they save and submit their booth. And that's all the employer has to do to get their booth page up and running into the system. And we'll get that approved within a few business days. But going back to the VJF quick start guide. So after the employer has set up their booth and they're engaged in the events, you'll then further coordinate the event details. This includes just ironing out an agenda, if Zoom training is needed for the employer, marketing, promotion on social media, getting the word out and so forth. And then final preparations, depending on the size and scope of the event, we can hold a dry run with the partners and participating employers so they can get a sense of how the event will actually go. And we can answer any questions that may arise there as well. And then the single employer event, this will show, this is just an overview of everything that's involved in coordinating an event with and without Illinois WorkNet assistance. You of course have the option to hold the event on your own and just add that information into the system. But if you choose to work with us in putting on an event, we can, this page just breaks down what Illinois WorkNet staff will provide and what will be expected of our partners in putting on the event here. And so you can check out this page for more information about that. And the multi-employer event page is set up the same way in breaking out what assistance looks like with Illinois WorkNet as opposed to putting the event on by yourself or your organization. Okay, and then legislative events, I believe this is, yes, pretty much the same thing. What we'll do, the responsibilities of the LWIAs that we're partnering with and what Illinois WorkNet will provide here. Okay, but it looks like the issue that we were experiencing earlier has been resolved. So I think we'll go ahead and review the updates if this is back. Okay, great. Okay, so going back to the updates. So since our last meeting, we have a couple here under February 18th. We corrected the Iframe resizing issue for single employer event request dashboard, as well as the performance of single employer load time. So what was happening was, so again, kind of circling back to what we started with. So when you have access to the virtual job fair system, you log into your workNet account. Under my dashboard, you'll see the VJF icon. And when you select that, that'll take you to this page. And so from here, you can see the booth management, of course. Now, if you're in a particular LWIA, you're only going to see employer booths that have a physical address in that region. And from here, you can kind of, we've gone over some of these before, but just a quick glance here. We'll open up these icons and new tabs. This gray one, the booth details, when you hover over that, that provides an overview of the employer booth. Just kind of high level information here and links to access management to different users who are in the workNet system, as well as, again, just getting an overview, the links to the employer's website and job posting, number of positions, and so forth. That information is captured here at a high level. The blue icon, this is the edit employer booth information, and that's that employer booth form that we saw here. It's just completed. Of course, the employer can come back in at any time and update as needed to extend the booth date if the jobs have not been filled yet, but they can come in here and edit this information. And then they can manage virtual job fairs here. They can either request assistance or add their own event. But getting back to the updates. So the updates that we were talking about were under single employer VJFs. This is the event request dashboard. Okay, so when that's selected, what you'll see here, similar to the employer booths, you'll only see employers in your region that have requested assistance in putting on an event. And so I think what was happening before was you would see a scroll bar here and it was getting cut off, but what's been resolved now is that it loads in full, so you can see all the events here. And we also improved the load time of this, because this was slowing down quite a bit before. So additional changes we have made. So employer booth contact information is now required to be public. So going back to booth management, something that we were noticing was, in that employer booth form, we had the the employer contact information before we had the option to show it publicly or not, and now we're requiring that for a program contact name or primary contact name and email. That way, if job seekers come across to an employer booth, they have a point of contact that they can follow up with directly. And not all employers were providing that publicly, but that's now been made a requirement. Okay, so then additionally, at the booth management page at the top here, we've added a button here, export job fairs. This is currently being worked on. This is a separate issue. So we had the export for all the employer booths and that information, but export job fairs, that's going to show job fairs that have been added within the last 2 weeks, whether or not the employer has requested assistance or if they've just added it on their own. And that's really more of an enhancement made for our staff so that we can add any events that we haven't been communicating with that employer, so we can get that event added to the workNet calendar so that others can see it in another way. So it's really for us, but otherwise, if you have access to the VJF system and that daily email, you'll get that information as well. So this is just a way to kind of export that data in one batch. add their own events. Okay, and then the other update we have is so when an employer goes to manage their job fair, we added this note here that if we see, so sorry, we've added this note here if they want to add their event to the VJF event calendar, and this just links directly to the event calendar and how they can add it. Just the note to, under the series tag, be sure to select virtual job fair, and we can go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. So they'll complete the event information in here, and then at the very bottom here under series, they will select virtual job fair. And in selecting that and adding it, it will then show up on the VJF event calendar. So if we go to the VJF landing page, we'll scroll down and select VJF events. And this is the Illinois workNet event calendar, but it's filtered specifically to VJF events. So in adding that series tag, their event will show up here once the event is approved. And again, that'll take a few business days. Okay, and I believe those are the updates that we have made. Or actually, wait, there's one more thing. It's not been added on that page yet, but I noticed, so let me go back here. Something that we have added is when an employer fills out the form, down here, we have added the position titles. It's optional, so what the employer can do is, of course, they can add the industry or industries that they're hiring in, but they can also enter the text of the job titles that are for the open positions that they have. And I think this came out maybe literally yesterday, so I don't know if anyone's entered it into the system yet, but when they do, that information will show up on their booth page in this section right here. So it'll show up underneath the job postings, the number of openings. It'll show job titles and then the job posting industries. So we have added that as well, so job seekers can see what positions that company is hiring for. Okay, and so with that, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions for now. I do see one in the chat. Can we please have the company contacts title added to the information required when they set up a booth? That's a great question, David. I am going to make a note of that because I'm thinking how that can be collected without it maybe showing publicly, or maybe it should, but I think that would be an easy enough thing to implement. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get that added to a list of enhancements that we have going. Because yeah, I think that would be beneficial to include on the booth. So yeah, we'll make sure that we can get that updated in. I think that should be an easy enough fix for our programmers, so that can hopefully, knock on wood, by the meeting in April, we'll have that rolled out. Okay. All right, so with that, what we'll go ahead and do now is kind of provide a overview of the dashboards, the event dashboards we have. So as I mentioned, if you do have access to the VJF system, under my dashboard, when you're logged into workNet, you'll see this VJF icon under personal tools. If you do not see this icon, then that means you don't have access to it. So that's a good way to determine that. And I see that Daniel provided our emails in the chat. So if you have any questions about attaining access, you can email us and we can make sure you get the access there. And when you do have access, you'll receive a daily email that'll look something like this. We'll open this up here. There's a few different sections in the email. So we'll first start off with employers requesting assistance with a VJF in your LWIA. That'll be right at the top. And this will be the employer requests that have been made. So when an employer goes to request assistance with an event, what will happen is there's a record in the dashboard, but it'll also show up here in this email. And this email goes out weekdays around, I think, a couple minutes after 9 a.m. If there's been any activity within your region. So, you'll see employers who've requested assistance, and then we have step-by-step instructions of how to reach the dashboard, which is the page we're on now, and then how to reach this employer's record request. And we also have links to instructions as well on how to reach this page. So we'll get to that in a second. I want to get through the rest of this email, but we've also, below this, we have upcoming VJF events in your LWIA. So in this case, for this region, there's no future job fairs that have been added, but if it is added to the employer's booth, the event, then that will show up here. It'll show the name of the event as well as the date in which it's going to be held. Employer booths pending approval. We do have a process in place. So when an employer submits a booth, it has to be reviewed and approved. We do have a project assistant who does this on a weekly basis, but feel free to review the booth and approve it yourself. But we do have something in place so that these booths, aren't just sitting out there and the employer's wondering, what's going on. We do have someone in place to review and update and approve those booths. And then lastly, we have employer booth updates. If there's been any updates to the booth, if they extended their date, if they changed the number of positions they have available, really it's just an FYI, just the activity that'll be captured in here. But that's how the daily email is broken out. Event requests, upcoming events, pending booths, if any, and then updates. And so, we'll go ahead and go back up to here for employers requesting assistance. So in this case, what we'll do is we will, kind of following the steps here, log into workNet, my dashboard, VJF icon. And so we'll click the drop down here and select single employer VJFs. And so here you'll see the event requests that are in your region. And you can see the table here that you can sort a few different ways by employer. We have the booth ID, that's just kind of for reference, the request status, the submission date, the start date of when that employer is thinking of having their event, the post-event follow-up status, and the user that was that last updated a record for that. And so when an employer makes the request, it'll show up in here. And so at the top, we do have filters by event status. We do have filters by event status. If it's open, that would mean a new request has been made and someone needs to reach out to the employer. In progress would be events that we are kind of communicating with the employer or we're leading up to the event. And then if the event's completed or canceled, those are filters as well. Something I do want to mention is when you receive that daily email, event requests that are marked as open or in progress are going to appear here. So even if you've already confirmed with the employer, you have a date lined up and everything's squared away, this will still show up here just as an FYI, kind of as a reminder. So I know that's come up before, but you have those filters at the top here. You can also filter by date, and then the event follow-up. One of the questions that arises every now and then are what is the, what are the outcomes? What was the success of an event? And so what we've added to the employer record is a way for you to kind of record that information. So for example, we will go to, let's go to a completed event. Let's select this one. Okay, so we'll say it's Illinois House of Representatives. So you'll click on that, the employer request detail, and it'll pull up this record here of this information. So you can see the event name, the start and end date of that event, the date it was submitted, the selected available times that the employer said they were available for an event, if they need training on Zoom. And then we also have a question here if that employer is open to participating in a live event with just their organization, or if they're open to being part of an event with more than one employer. And then we also have a few questions for target population, if that employer accepts non-English speaking employees. If they do, will they provide a translator for that event? And then up here, we have the event status, open, in progress, completed, canceled. Below this, we'll have the contact information. That is the employer who has submitted the request. That way, for at any point, if we need to reach out to them, we can kind of quickly come to this record here and see that contact's name, email, and phone number. It'll also show the LWIA that they're situated in, the employer, and the industries that they are hiring in. Below this, we can add webinar information for that event. And again, there's that reminder to add the event to the VJF calendar. And this is the post-event follow-up section that I wanted to point out here. So, we can, and what we'll do is we'll come back in here and add how many attended the event, if we're hosting it in Zoom. But then, the partners, after, several weeks of the event, they have the ability to reach out to the employers to see how many were hired as a result of holding that event. And you can just enter the number here, or click this scale to get that entered. And then you also have the question of which industries did you hire in? And similar to that employer booth form, you can select more than one. And then you can change this to, once you have followed up with them, you can select followed up. And then once this information has been captured and saved in here, you can mark this as completed. And then any change you do make to the form, I do want to point out that you must click this blue save button. We have it at the top and the bottom. If you do not select it, the changes that you made will not be recorded. They won't be saved. Additionally, we have a notes section. This is more for kind of your team and our team, that you can just add a note of simple text of reach out to the employer, waiting to hear back, or we have the date confirmed and the time. We just need PowerPoint presentation and social media and so forth. So just to kind of leave a trail of where that event is in terms of being scheduled, coordinated, and all that. That way, if for whatever reason, let's say Daniel in this case was out, then I can just come in here and see where we're at, so I can just pick up where he left off. And so you have that ability as well with your team. And so that's what an event request looks like. And so we'll hit back, and that'll take us back here. There are a couple other things I want to point out. So we do have a button for plan your single employer VJF event. This is a page that we covered earlier. If you're working with an employer and they want to hold an event, you can refer to this page to see kind of what our standard practices are. So in requesting assistance with Illinois workNet, we do ask for a minimum of 2 weeks notice. And that's so that we can complete all of these items that are, in this bulleted list here. So, those 2 weeks, that gives us enough time to create registration, create a event calendar entry, schedule social media posts. If the employer does need Zoom training, we can do that as well. And again, just to kind of get the word out and allow enough time so the event isn't being rushed. It really is more of a matter of kind of just getting everything ironed out and straightened away before, so we have plenty of time to put on a successful event. But in requesting assistance, what we'll also do is, in addition to registration, calendar entry, social media, and Zoom training, during the webinar, we will, if need be, troubleshoot and provide technical assistance. We can provide opening remarks. We can record the event. And if, I don't think it's happened very often in the nearly 2 years we've been doing this, but if there's a participant who's being, very disruptive, we can remove them, and we will handle that. But we'll also upload the recording to YouTube, and then we'll send a post-event follow-up for feedback survey to participants and employers. We'll provide registration information and a link to the recording of the event. And so that's what Illinois WorkNet, our staff, will do if you request assistance with an event. And what we would ask the partners do is to communicate with the employer to ensure that they have a WorkNet account, an employer booth created, if they don't already have that. We also have that review and approve the employer booth entry for the participating employer. We'll also ask that you kind of help secure the PowerPoint slides for that event. And what we'll do then is, during the event, we'll actually handle those slides and navigate through them on the screen share. And then we'd ask that partners provide any opening and closing remarks, letting attendees know about, the American Job Center, what local resources are available, and so forth. We also have a list of questions that can be used. So if there are questions in the Zoom chat, we would ask that, kind of you facilitate that with the employer who is presenting. And that's what requesting assistance with Illinois WorkNet looks like. And then, of course, without assistance, then that's just kind of everything listed out there. From the employer booth creation, booth review, creating your own registration page, calendar entry, social media, webinar platform, ensuring the employer has presentation materials, providing technical assistance and facilitating the event, and recording it and adding it to the employer's booth page as well, and along with any post-event follow-up. And so we just have a link for reference there within the dashboard. And then multi-employer VJFs, that's also an option here. These are the larger events that we've held that have more than one employer. This is a record of all the ones we've held. But again, it's set up the pretty much the exact same way as far as the information in the table here. If we just select this, I'm seeing if there's any key differences here. So yeah, we have some notes here about what that event is, about that event, a logo for the event. This is just the standard template one. Of course, we can upload and change that to anything else. And since more employers are participating, you can also select which industries are being represented in the job openings for that event. And then, the same information down here, post-event follow-up in the notes section. So whether it's a small or larger event, the dashboard is set up the same way. And if you'd like to hold a larger event, if you're not in communication with Daniel and myself via email, what you can do is select add my own multi-employer VJF. Nope, sorry, wrong one. Request assistance hosting a multi-employer VJF. And then we'll just have you complete this event request form, which has some of those fields that we talked about earlier. Name, contact information, LWIA, industries, date range, target population, and little information about the event. And once that's submitted, we'll receive a notification and it'll show up in here in this table. And then we also have a add my own, nope, sorry. Yep, the add my own multi-employer VJF. And this is kind of a disclaimer that if you're adding it on your own to, that you'll be responsible for planning and coordinating the event. We have a link to this page here, which we kind of quickly looked at of, again, this is for multi-employer events, but with and without assistance, the breakdown of the roles and responsibilities. And then you'll also be marketing, hosting, and so forth. But then once you select this, you'll then similarly just kind of enter this same information in here. And it'll show up in this table here. And of course, if you select booth management, that'll take you back to the employer booth page, the dashboard management page here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to questions. I see there's a few in the chat here. Let's see, there was one, when a virtual job fair is set, does workNet send out the link to appropriate parties involved or just to the organizations and companies? Thank you, Daniel. I see that you responded that when the VJF date is set, we will send that out to the main points of contact we have in the calendar invites. So when the date is set, there's a few different ways that you can see it. One would be that daily email in this section here, upcoming VJF events in your LWIA, but Daniel will also add you to the email, the email invite as well, so that you're involved. But again, if we're involved too, we'll promote it on social media and add it to our event calendar as well. Let's see, and then I also see a question. Can we have the blurb for the alert us at least 2 weeks in advance for your request added to the bulleted instructions? David, is that for, so you're referring to this here. Are you talking about the bulleted instructions on this page, or is there a different set of instructions you have in mind? Oh, no, all good. So yeah, we do have that here. I should have led with that, I think. That we do have a minimum of 2 weeks notice for single employer events. For multi-employer events, we have that about 5 weeks notice. The reason being it's a little bit longer is there's more details to put together, confirming the employers, making sure they have employer booths and workNet accounts and presentation materials, and that we're all on the same page. So that's why we have approximately 5 weeks notice, but depending on the volume of events, we may be able to be a little bit flexible about that. Let's see. Close out some of these tabs here. See if there's anything else I wanted to cover. I know we had a rocky start, but yeah, I guess we can provide an overview of the rest of the guide in the meantime. So again, VJF partner guide. We have about the virtual job fair system and guide and planning your virtual job fair event, which we've looked at. Below here, we have all resources. We have a few different pages here, partner guidance. And this will open up the article app. We have a handful of articles, 2 each for employers and for job seekers, both for preparing for a VJF and attending a VJF. These are really just kind of best practices, what to expect, do's and don'ts, setting up, making sure your webinar equipment is prepared, that you're ready for questions, that you're not disruptive, and so forth. So you can take a look at these. We'll select one of these just so you can get a sense of what it looks like here. This is preparing for employers. So on the side, we'll have some resources, whether it's instructions or flyers or a video providing an overview of the event, but we do have these available for employers and job seekers. If they are not too familiar with what a virtual event looks like, they can refer to these articles here. Partner training materials and videos. So when we do have training sessions such as these, I think this actually might mostly be the monthly training sessions here, we'll add them to this page. So we are recording this morning's session, and before the end of the day, we'll have it added to this playlist here. And then in this table here, we'll show the presentation title, date, materials, or any resources we shared. We'll have a link to those, as well as a kind of description and overview of what all was covered during the call. And so that's going to be captured on this page. Full list of resources. Got a lot of information here, so just kind of going column by column. We have guidance. We have an FAQ page. We have kind of introductory resources. Some of these we've talked about, but for individuals and job seekers and employers, we have an introductory video, those articles that we just took a look at, as well as a recorded presentation in PowerPoint providing an overview of the VJF for both of those audiences. We have, let's see, for under workforce partners, we have adult educators, we have a PowerPoint that they can refer to, as well as a link to that page that we were just on of all those training materials. Instructions. So partner instructions, this is one I want to point out. We do have a document here that provides an overview of the system. And, just kind of general use, some resources, some quick links, but, some of the different sections we have: preparing for virtual job fair in your area. Let's zoom in here. Preparing for it, planning guides, social media samples and templates here, just general access, how to reach the dashboards, which we have covered in this call. And just kind of general usage, how to add, webinars, request assistance, how to reach the dashboards and so forth, managing the event records and so forth. So we have this instructional guide that you can refer to. For employers, we have a short video here of how they can submit an employer booth, as well as instructions on how they can edit and manage their booth. We have quick start guides for job seekers and employers. And these are more just kind of covering general resources that we have available on Illinois WorkNet. And this is, under here, this is just adding an employer booth. This is just a couple pages on how the employers can add, how they can submit a booth through WorkNet. Then we link to our resume writing guide as well. Under legislative VJFs, we have a couple of reports here that we put together. that just kind of summarize the event, who involved was the event, a little description about it, and then at a glance, number of businesses, attendees, job represented. In this case, we had training webinar series and how many attended those as well. And we have some kind of testimonials from participants, as well as kind of a breakdown of what the schedule looked like, those training sessions, and graphs on what that event looked like as well. So we do have that included. And then VJF planning, we have some spreadsheets that you are free to use that can help you kind of keep track of the employers and contact information and so forth, as well as a timeline to if you decide to put the event on yourself. So we have that there. And then we have a PowerPoint template for employers. Yep, and a template to collect their information. We also have a list of questions for Q&A. So something that came up before was, maybe there just weren't really any questions in the chat. So instead of silence, we did put together a list of questions that we refer to in the event that we need them, and that's available here as well. And then under outreach, we have a customized flyer that you can use to promote your event. Seems like I think we're going to be making a new template, so that's something to that we'll let you know about in the future. But we also have just kind of standard flyers for job seekers and employers about the VJF tool. They're just one pagers, just letting them know how to access and reach it and what the VJF has to offer. And then I think Daniel shared, or no, that's a different document, never mind. We do have social media post samples and templates that you can use. Yeah, let's go ahead and open this one up. That you can use on Twitter or Facebook to promote the event in your area to your audience as well. So we just have a few samples here, the overview of the virtual job fair tool, the announcement of an upcoming event, reminder for an upcoming event, and a reminder of the tool and upcoming event. We have the hashtag included for Illinois WorkNet, but the bolded and italicized text, that's the text that you can change to tailor it to the event that you are trying to promote. And below this, what we do is we put together a weekly report for the Department of Commerce of virtual job fair. It's a running report that we have done dating back to June 2020. And yeah, you can refer to this to see the number of how the number of employer booths have grown, number of positions, demographic data that we have captured, and so forth. You can refer to that as well. But I know we have a few minutes left, so actually, there's a couple more things. Sorry, in the partner guide, partner tool updates, that was the page that we started off with. Any updates to the system, we'll record those in here. And then down below, this is just our schedule for the monthly training session that we have, and then past events as well. So yeah, with that, see if there's any other questions before we close out, or if Daniel, there's anything I've missed or that you'd like to add. All right, well, with that, I think we'll go ahead and wind down here. Yeah, this has been recorded. We'll get this uploaded to YouTube and the partner training materials and videos page before the end of the day. And again, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Daniel and myself. And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and weekend. Thanks, everybody.